Rim Tusk, I think shaman is what it's called, or Rhyme Tusk. I don't know how you pronounce it. But the shamans have a lot of...
We said no names, man.
We said no names.
We said no names, and now we're already just like, yeah, the card in the game. Rim Tusk, right? Rime Tusk.
Welcome to Casuals of Runeterra, episode 6. I'm your host, Ryan, here with your other host, Hetch.
What's up? What's good?
How's it going, buddy?
It's going. How are you?
You know what? Riot's killing us with all these releases. Like, I can respect it, but we can't keep up. We're supposed to be casuals.
Hey, they know that we're locked up, all right? They know that we're just locked down. And it's like, what are you going to do with your day? All right? What you're going to do is you're going to go and give us some content. Now get to work.
Get to work. No paycheck.
No paychecks.
Housekeeping, as usual. You can now listen to us everywhere. I'm not going through the list anymore. If you love it, it's there.
God.
And remember, like YouTube now, I know a lot of people are listening on YouTube. So you can check us out there. We have our videos uploaded, usually the same exact time that it goes up everywhere else, maybe a little bit delayed. It depends on how I feel. But you can follow us on Twitter to keep up to date on episodes at Podcast Core. That's COR. And you can also email us at podcastcore@gmail.com. And then leave a like, follow, short review, comment, emoji, shenanigans.
Yeah, make sure to leave a 5-star review with a star emoji so that we can be the 6-star podcast.
Yes, we're going to be the first 6-star podcast.
And send us an email if you want Ryan to just go through the list anyways. Just tie him down to the list.
And as always, so swear a blood oath with a friend to catch every episode of Casuals of Runeterra.
All right, you're doing it's a solo cast now. I'm gone.
You keep threatening to leave me. But you keep crawling back.
You gave away our secrets. It's a blood oath that keeps me here.
I know. So ice cold influence is the topic of this episode. So no state of the game for this one, because we're talking about one of the recently revealed cards that's coming to Runeterra on release, which is Sejuani. Is it Sejuani or Sejuani? I'm guessing it's Sejuani.
I've always said Sejuani. I'm not going to pretend like I know the linguistics of the Freljord.
Yeah.
I could be terribly wrong. But this is the hill that I'm not going to fight on this one.
I like to think that it's a hard sound is the safe to go with when it comes to northern tribal names. So you have like Ash, you have Tryndamere, you have these things that have these hard, vowel sounds. I like to go with that. So Sejuani. Like if it was a southern tribe or more tropical, like Ionian, I would say Juani would probably fit better.
Right.
But I'm reaching there. As we often do here.
I'm just coming from like back when I used to play League. It's easier to go Sej. From the jungle, we're getting ganked. We're gonna die.
So let's get into it. We had a couple cards revealed. I think it was 5 cards, including her flip, right? So that would make it 6 if you want to look at it that way. So like there's spells, there's we had one spell, we had a couple followers, and then Sejuani to talk about. So we'll talk about her lore as always once we get there. But first, we want to look at the spell we chose, which was the only one revealed, which is Fury of the North, a 4-cost burst spell that gives any ally +4/+4 this round. Pretty straightforward. Definitely a reference to the dangerous wild beast. The foul beast of the Freljord, known as Ursines, or they're like this tribal half magic, half real amalgamations that exist around like the ice sea and attack things outside the standard beasts that are out there.
You can tell it's definitely highly influenced by a lot of like the berserker lore and stuff like that here. You've seen Ursine everywhere. This is Riot's version of that. But hype train. Let's just all on board. Let's go. I'm excited for a 4 mana. The giant growth. Let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. You nailed it. Giant growth from Magic.
Yeah.
So this isn't anything crazy. I mean, 4/4 is great, and with the uniqueness of Legends of Runeterra, where if you over buff your character and they don't completely get their health removed that round, it counts as like a healing adjacent, right? Or effective health that turns into real health when the next round starts. So that makes burst spells a lot more usable in this game versus Magic. They're kind of throwaways unless you're playing some kind of aggro.
Not to mention that you also pointed out that it's burst, which is also kind of unique to Runeterra because there's no interaction with this. It's getting +4/+4.
Split second.
Yeah, like it's like I'm excited for this card because it's just like the only other really like burst spells that we've got as far as with the buffs aren't nearly as big. Like +4/+4 is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that are as big are either not burst speed or they are like 8 mana.
Yeah.
Like this is gonna make the whole combat trick like mind games a lot more fun. So
I agree.
I'm excited for Fury of the North.
So then our follower that we picked out of this, we got 3 of them, and the one that stood out the most was the Stormclaw Ursine. Once again, fitting into that lore of the Ursines reference, and then also kind of a nod to Volibear, which just got a rework in League of Legends not too long ago to make him fit more into that new lore they produced for him, to make him more of a nightmarish creature.
I did not know about the rework.
Yeah, man. You gotta check it out. The video's awesome. And he's like bigger, he's scarier, because that's the whole intent. He wasn't just supposed to be a bear. He was supposed to be one of these creatures, these mystic kind of creatures of the Freljord. And once again, they Ash and Sejuani in both of their separate stories. Ash we'll get to soon in another episode. But in their separate stories, they come across these beasts. And they don't take one down, but they fight another beast in the same time. It's kind of ridiculous, but they bond over it. it's a time for sisters to get closer. But for this card specifically, the fact that it's a 5-cost 6/6 with Overwhelm that grants other allies +5 with +5 power Overwhelm is ridiculous. Yeah. That is a clear sense that Riot is kind of trying to push mid-range a little bit further.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're not going to get into all of it right now as far as with this episode, but Riot is definitely, taking a look at the meta game and going, okay, like mid-range and aggro. Let's give them some love and let's see a little bit more variety, which is kind of crazy that they're doing it because it's not like variety's been lacking.
There's plenty of decks out there. Yeah,
like so the fact that they're already just hopping early on it's exciting. But I do love the fact that it gives everything the +5 power Overwhelm because there's not really that many like Anthem feeling decks or like even the Anthem decks out there like
Bannerman
you barely see, and it's just Bannerman. Like only Bannerman. So.
Or like the Ash Noxus deck.
Yeah, and that that's the thing. Is like the other ones that I'm trying to think of is really just kind of stretching it, right? It's like they're not true anthems. This is like as close to a true anthem as you're gonna get. Is big Chungai. The Chungus is
Chungai.
The Chungai.
Listen. I think I had the special end of episode thing for you today, and I think you already completed it. But we'll go back there. All right. So let's get into Sejuani, right? That's the main card we saw. It's the main card that caught everybody's attention because she is a finisher. But let's start with the lore, right? Of the Winterclaw tribe. We called it Ice Cold Influences because, man, does her family suck. So Sejuani was in a situation where her grandmother was the War Mother. Not a great one, kind of running the tribe. They're one of the more poor tribes, and I'll reference, Avarosin and how they're considered rich compared to everyone else in another episode. But they're a poor tribe. They're overpopulated. They can't afford to feed everyone. Everyone's not very useful, as most tribes are more lean and focused. And, her grandma's stubborn. And because of that, her mother actually leaves the tribe early on to go marry some other noble guy, a noble in the tribal sense, and to go live a separate life away from this whole mess. But then as the grandmother runs this into the ground, the mother comes back around to claim her title as, by lineage, the war mother. But she's just as, useless, essentially, because they're kind of rooted in this old school way of doing things and it's not working for their tribe. So you have a case where the grandmother sucks, the mother sucks. And Sejuani, unfortunately, wants to be better. And because she's the same age as Ash, Ash is a big part of her life until this goes back to the grandmother sucking. You have a family dispute between Ash's mother, the war mother. We're not going to do names. There's so many names, it'll just be confusing.
Look, it's one thing to just say it's like, okay, we're too lazy to do the names because of the number.
Yeah.
Some of these names, I don't want to be the one that's gonna butcher it, and then what we're gonna be stuck is okay, yeah, we named it, we're the ones that gave the definition of the name.
Yeah.
It's Kalkia, what? Who is that? Did I even say it right? Who knows?
I don't
Who's
know,
gonna tell us? So yeah, no names.
Who's responsible for fixing this?
You know what? You can email us at podcastcore.
Yeah, send us the enunciations. Yeah, do that. Do us a favor here. Help us out.
Yeah, right? We'll type them out for you, and then you can tell us how we're supposed to say it.
Yeah, but they had a family feud. So Ash and Sejuani grew up together, and then the family feud happened. So they stopped talking, so they didn't see each other forever. The bad relations continued. Grandmother, I can't remember exactly what happened to grandmother, but I know the mother took back over, and then Sejuani, in that time frame being away, started to idolize Ash's mother, Ash's mother's not as bad as Sejuani's grandmother and mother, but she also has these extreme ideals, especially on the religious side, for the Avarosan throne and things like that.
Yeah, I think a big part that it's constantly pointed out too is that when they're talking about Sejuani's childhood is that any silver lining to her childhood was her time with Ash.
Yeah.
And anything that she experienced that was good came from the Avarosan tribe. So
exactly.
it's just lived in the dumpster.
Yeah.
And then it was okay, well, this is the rest of the junkyard.
Yeah.
It's oh my God, this is great.
So we fast forward a little bit to I want to say teenagers, probably 17, 18, where Ash, after her whole story ending up stranded in the IC after she finds the bow, talk about that later. Sejuani finds her, helps her out. They're able to gather a bunch of food to bring back to the town or to her tribe, who's currently being guided, misguided by Frost Priest. So Frost shamans, we have one in the game as well. Rim Tusk, I think shaman is what it's called, or Rhyme Tusk. I don't know how you pronounce it. But the shamans have a lot of...
We said no names, man.
We said no names.
We said no names, and now we're already just the card in the game. Rim Tusk, right? Rime Tusk.
But yeah, so the shamans kind of have their own place in each tribe, and they're heavily powerful in Sejuani's tribe because of how disorganized it is. So after Ash comes back, she tries to integrate her into the tribe. It doesn't work out. So Sejuani starts to stage a coup, essentially, with her regiment of the tribe to take down her mother. This is after I don't know if it was after or before there's her mount that everybody's familiar with. She does a Noxian raid to save that mount. Yeah.
It's not to save the mount. She does the Noxian raid when she decides to start her path towards the coup. And then in the process of the raid, which ended up being a success, they freed the only named character that we're going to bring up in this podcast. Yeah. She frees an infant or either juvenile Tusk or Druvvesk. But names it Bristle. Yeah. There you go. That's the only named character that we've got. is this Tuskvor that gets saved by Sejuani and becomes the largest, almost recorded Tuskvor ever, and Sejuani's mount, which is all over her art. That's what she rides.
Yeah, it's a part of her skill. Yeah, part of her skill set. But yeah, so that leads to the coup, but the fight against her and her mother never ends up happening because the Frost Priest step in and end up resulting in the death of her mother. And then this takes us to Sejuani taking over and almost becoming like a land pirate as a war mother. So she becomes, in the fear of being, what do you want to say? In the fear of being the same style of her grandmother and mother, where they're just complacent with where they're at. She starts to go and pillage and take over these other places to be able to feed and not consume, take over. So like we're talking about just pirate acts. She's not trying to bring together tribes. She's trying to make sure that hers survives by feeding on the wealth of others. And at that point, that's where you have a lot of divergence between her ideals and Ash's ideals. And they, after forming a blood bond or blood oath at one point, it was illegitimate for one, so it doesn't hold up in court. But she does tell Ash, I didn't know you were so weak and you didn't understand the greatness of your mother, so I'm going to carry on her approach. And Ash is like, well, I don't hate you, but I refuse to do it that way, and I'm changing the game, baby.
Doesn't hold up in Judge Judica's court of Avarosian law. Yeah, like it was the worst episode I ever watched.
Oh man. But yeah, so that's essentially the base story of Sejuani's half of the whole Freljord shenanigans.
I do, because the land pirate, as dumb as that is, please don't add us with that one. But it is kind of appropriate too, because she is definitely just raiding and pillaging, and the only followers that she ends up taking on are the ones that are the outcasts to especially like the Avarosian tribes, or like the Triad Confederation, but they're outcasts because of the traditions set by the shamans, which she's already, like, Sejuani already has a sense of animosity towards, because they disrupted her challenging in the right way to become the war mother. And so then all these, like cast off shamans and outcast of Freljord end up kind of just becoming part of this land pirate war band.
Yeah, so let's get into the card. We're gonna do a blend of the topic over to fate of the game. It's melded here because we want to talk about how she's gonna affect the meta and the game in general, because she's essentially a finisher. But the card is a 6-cost 5/6 with on play. It has overwhelm as well. And on play, you give an enemy frostbite and vulnerable this round. And to level her up, you need to deal damage to the Nexus in 5 different rounds in the game. That's a lot to flip her. So she's definitely meant to, be a big body, but also when she does flip, it's supposed to end the game. The second half of her, when she does flip, is all the other previous stuff. And then the first time you see damage, first time you damage the enemy Nexus each round, you frostbite all enemies. So essentially, it's a win more, right? It's like, hey, I'm hitting you already. I'm able to get damage through, and all your stuff is going to die one by one because you can't compete. Everything's going to have 0 attack.
Yeah, like she's going to completely negate trading. Like, if she flips, there's no more trading.
Yeah.
Like I have decided that the trading is done.
I have decided.
Yeah. Like, build the wall. There will be no trade. And so like finisher is definitely like the definition of what she's going to be doing.
Yeah. So
it's game over.
The vulnerable thing is interesting too, because it's essentially a play on challenger, where when you give something vulnerable, anything you attack with can challenge that thing, right?
Yeah.
Rather than having the character have to have challenger to pick the which could be interesting. I could see, because she's never going to flip, I could see strategies in which she's bounced, right? So you can play it more. Yeah. Or like cheap clones of her, so ephemeral clones, where you can clone it for cheaper and then play it for cheaper just so you get the effect, so you can keep controlling the board. Or she could just be a win more. I don't see, when she flips, unless you're control deck, like I don't think she flips against aggro because you're usually dead by then.
Yeah, the vulnerable bit is it's such a cool idea as far as because like it against the creature that has vulnerable, all of your things have challenger is the gist of it. I just like they haven't shown us enough of like support with it because as far as with just obviously it's a very small sample size because it's just enough to tease us, but she's the only card that has vulnerable on it so far. And the I think the name of the card is Laurent. It's not Laurent Protege, but it's one of the Laurent cards that gives challenger
when it strikes
to not
when it attacks strikes. With
it's off the play it's so Laurent Duelist. So off the play you give an ally challenge. And nice. The Demacia also has On Guard, and this whole vulnerable thing definitely seems more along the lines of this Demacian setup, but with Demacia has more support for it and no one played it. Like outside of the like expeditions and stuff, I've never seen either of those cards played, or well, outside of my dumbass decks. But so I don't know how I like. Definitely, her effect is powerful. But I don't know how much we're actually gonna really like. Is it gonna flip like that much of the meta up? I don't think it's gonna flip it up nearly as much as her flipped ability and people trying to figure out how to get her to actually finish people. Yeah,
she's definitely, I think after looking at it more over this time frame, she's not as insane as everybody first thought when she was revealed. But yeah, so that's Sejuani. And as usual, I have a little surprise for Hedge.
Oh no.
So to wrap up this episode, Hedge, this one's a little nicer. We're going to come up with names for our mounts. All right.
Okay.
All right. So my mount would probably be like, I want an Ursine, right? So I want like a Volibear. I want to ride a Volibear, and I want his name.
I'm getting some Golden Compass vibes from.
I know, right? I want his name to be Kirk. Kirk, the Ursine. So like if he's not behaving, because my whole thing is I like pet names where when you get mad at them it sounds it, right? It's like, God damn it, Kirk. Like that. that's what I aim for when it comes to pet names.
Well, you know what? Kirk deserves better. Like, I know it's not what you want to hear, but that's the truth. All right.
So what's your pet? What's your pet and what's his name?
Okay. Like my brain went directly to something, and it's a bit of a stretch.
Okay.
I need you to go along with me on this.
Okay. I'm on the journey.
All right. I want, because Bristle is the largest Tuskvore that we've ever seen.
I know where this is going.
Right? All right, so I want my mount to end up being the largest Poro that has ever been recorded. All right, so imagine Heart of the Fluffed art, okay? Except a little more facial hair.
Yeah.
All right, and I'm gonna name him Cervantes. And then I'm gonna be all like Gandalf going, Cervantes, we ride.
All right, that's pretty good. Are Poros sentient? Like, I don't like how much actualization of their world do they know?
I'm gonna argue that Poros can't be like that. Like, well, they're sentient, but they're not intelligent.
Yeah, sorry.
Because I mean there's no way they're that intelligent. Like the first time that Poros were ever introduced in League of Legends, it was in the ARAM mode.
Yeah.
Or all random, all mid mode.
Yeah.
And they were a summoner spell where you basically chucked them at the Alright, so if anything's gonna act like a snowball, it can't be that.
There you have it, folks. This has been another episode of Casuals of Runeterra. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with the next episode.
Email us your mount's name. Let us know what y'all writing.
Oh yeah, let us know what you're writing about. That's a good one. Oh my gosh, we'll see y'all soon.